Hey YouTube, welcome back for another video. So this video we're going to be talking about a trade that we're potentially going to put on. There just needs to be a few pieces that needs to fit into the puzzle in order for us to actually take the trade, but it's looking pretty good right now. So this is BATUSDT. You probably won't be able to short this unless you have a Binance account not in the US, but if you are able to have that option where you can short, that's great. If not, you might have to look elsewhere for some trading opportunities. So let's start off with obviously the weekly and then going down to the daily and then the 4 hour and then 1 hour. This chart or this trade will actually be taken on the 15 minutes. So very, very precise entries. But we're mainly looking at the 4 hour and 1 hour to understand why we're taking this trade in the first place. We are using every piece of data from the weekly to the 15 minute in order to actually make a decision to take the trade. But this is just going to be an overview, mainly looking at the bigger time frames and then really breaking it down on the 15 minute to know exactly what we're going to do. If certain things in the price action come into fruition, we will then take that trade. So first, let's talk about the weekly time frame. So the first things first, the first zone I'm able to see is right here. Let's just draw it in. We first see it as a resistance. It was a support for this long wick to the downside, and then we saw it used as a resistance. It broke, and then now we could be seeing it used as a resistance again. And this is the zone right around here. This is that resistance. Used it as a support and then could not break, massive push to the downside after that big rejection, and we finally made it above the zone. This was a little retest. If we just make it a little bit higher, encompassing the wick here and the wick here, that would be a retest to the upside, and then we got another huge rejection to the downside, and then we've been falling ever since. After breaking this zone, we need to have a retest to validate the zone as a new resistance. We don't need to, but in most cases, that's what the price action does. So this is what we're able to see right now. Also looking at the weekly on the volume, we see that there's a lot more sell volume all the way through when the bears are in control compared to the pullback with the bulls pushing the price close to that zone of supply. That is telling me the volume is in distribution. It is a bearish sign. The major key players trading in the market are trying to sell the pair and distribute the coins into the market, not holding on to it. And that for us is a sign that we could see a potential move back to the downside because the bulls will not be able to hold it high enough around this zone. We do have a lower zone, which is going to be around here. So this is where the buyers have been stepping up and purchasing the coin, buying into the pair. We see that initially right here where the massive bear movement finally stalled out, and then we got a double bottom with a zone where we finally got a floor where the buyers and the demand zone is going to be located. So we first got right here, and this is going to be the key area that we're looking at to give us the reason why we're actually going to use this zone as a potential take profit for our short. So now that we've talked about the major zones, we've got the major supply zone that we're really going to be looking at, and then also the demand zone where we're going to probably be taking profits if we do actually get the price to start coming back down. Now we can move on to the weekly chart to see what we're able to identify. So from the weekly, we'll just switch to the daily and then zoom out quite a bit here. And we can see that these zones are pretty wide, so we will clean them up quite a bit on the daily here. So looking at the resistance zone, we can see it was a key level of support here, and then it turned into a new resistance. We can see that right around here. Also, we can see key level of the support turns into a new resistance. So we will draw this in right here. It won't be absolutely precise, but that's the area that we're looking at right around here. We can encompass the bottom a little bit more like so, and then we could also make it into two where we have a smaller zone and then a bigger zone up top. But for now, we're just going to make it into one big zone. So we can see right here, key level of support, resistance, and then these were wicks on the weekly, but they are going to have candle closes on the daily. We got a massive rejection to the downside. Once we started to push up, we retested and then retested the bottom and then the top of the zone, and then we made our move to the upside. And this is where BTC started to fall pretty significantly back in November, around mid-November, and then the whole market did fall during that time, so there's no surprise of that price action there. We retested this previous support, and we did hold it. We got some long wicks coming to the downside, and we did see a decent amount of buy volume try to keep the price above the zone, but the bears were too confident and too powerful, too strong, and they pushed the price down, pushed all the way through, retested once, made another impulse move, retested again with 3 wicks right on the zone of supply, and then we got a massive dump to the downside. What happened after that? We did get quite a bit of buy volume coming right back up, bit of consolidation, so we got our first impulse move, we got a correction, and then we got our second impulse move to the upside. Now, this does look bullish if you're looking at the really small time frames because you see one push and then a second push, but looking back, you can see that it was a key level on the chart where there was a lot of sell pressure previously and there was a lot of buy pressure using as both a support and resistance. So this is where I'm looking in terms of the price action on the daily. So let's now move to the 4-hour chart. But before that, we're just going to quickly talk about the take profit areas. We can see that this was a level of demand right here, and we'll just encompass that whole zone here. So it's a pretty large zone that we could be looking at for this short trade. Let's just take our risk reward here, and we don't exactly know what our risk reward is going to be at the daily chart, but just looking at where the price could come back to around 16.14, it's looking like a great potential short for us. So now let's go on to the 4-hour chart. We'll be able to dissect this even further. Alright, so I am going to clean this up a little bit more and refine it. We had a previous support right here, turned into a new resistance. We can just draw that in right here. Very, very precise. We can see it was used. We can even encompass this whole zone, but I'm just going to use the 4-hour close on this point right here, and then 1, 2, 3. And we also see some wick action right around here. Did not, unfortunately, hit this top zone here. So this is the setup that I'm going to have for the trend reversal. We got a massive move to the upside, very unsustainable. It could have a halt and then keep on pushing up. That's why we're wanting to see the closer time frames, the hour and the 15-minute, to really refine our entries. But for now, we're just going to take a bigger picture look at what we're able to see right here. And if we're looking at the key level of support, it's right here at the 16.11 zone, right around here, but that is a massive move to the downside if we are able to get that. Just looking at if it starts breaking right around here, even if we have our stop loss above the high here, that's looking like a really solid risk reward that we're able to take, maybe around 2.6, 2.7, somewhere around there. And if we're looking for a really solid push, it could go all the way up to the 3s. So we will talk about this on the smaller time frames, but just looking at the broad risk reward in this setup, it's looking pretty phenomenal. Now we do have to identify this key zone right here because it's a very obvious point on the chart. Previous support, new resistance, so it's potentially going to have a amount of demand there to some level, so we have to identify that on the chart so we know what we're looking at. So I'll just extend this out a little bit more. And then now we will now switch to the 1-hour chart because we've discussed what's happening on the weekly, on the daily, and especially refining our price action on the 4-hour. We're really able to see the previous supports all along here. 1, 2, 3 bounces, it broke, retested 1, 2, 3, 4 times, and then if we count these, it's 5 and 6. We won't really because they haven't touched this key zone that the price action here is. But we can see all along here, it has been such a key zone for us. So we could assume that once the price does start to come back down, we will have short sellers come into the market and buyers will want to take profits because they know that there's a key level on the chart right here. So now that we've talked about the 4-hour, we're going to go back to the 1-hour and discuss exactly what we're going to be taking in terms of the trade. So it will be a little bit more clear on the 15-minute, but what we're ideally going to do is we have a ascending trend line right here, and it's squeezing the price closer together. Remember how much sell volume there was right here. There is a ton of sell volume around this zone, so we can assume that the ascending trend line will be weaker compared to the strong horizontal zone of resistance. So what we're wanting to see is the price to break this zone, retest the ascending trend line, as well as potentially even a horizontal zone, and then we will see the retest get resisted. The bears are going to keep the price below a certain point, and then that's where we're wanting to enter for our short trade. And then this is the first area of major key demand. We will have some spots within where we will be taking profits for, but the key demand zones are going to be this zone right here. Let's just indicate that in green. And then the next demand zone is going to be right here. Let's just delete this zone. So these are going to be the two key demand zones that we are going to be looking to target. We will have a take profit in and around right here because we want to have some cash flow if the price doesn't go all the way down. We want to limit our risk as much as we can while letting the price move and be able to capture as much profit as we can, because not every single trade will hit all three take profit zones, or all two or four, whatever the case may be. You're not going to hit all your take profit zones every single time. That's just how trading goes. You have to get the most out of every trade, move on, look for another opportunity, and then do your TA properly. So that's basically the method that we're implementing every single time, going top-down approach, really looking for those really prime opportunities that the market is going to give us. So right now, it is looking pretty good. We still have to have a few things come into play, but we will get into the 15 minutes to really refine exactly what we're going to be doing. So let's look at this line a little bit more clear. It was this touch point right here, and then we saw the price touch right here. Let's get our little arrow. We saw the initial anchor point right here, and then we saw 1, 2, 3, 4 touch points. So this is going to give me a really clear sign that this is where the bulls are going to have their confidence. It does look like it's breaking a little bit right now, but we do have to have some things come into play before we even enter. So we have this zone right here that is also indicated with a horizontal zone. We see that it was a previous zone of support, and then it turned into a resistance, and then now it's turned into a support again. So what we're looking for is a break in this zone here for our full entry position. Now this does not mean that we will not enter at all. Let's just make this white. So if we do get a hold on the 15-minute chart right here, so it does look like we have around 4 minutes left. If we do get the price to hold just down here, I will be putting in a small feeler position in once we get a validation that we are actually going to completely break this zone. There's a lot of times where just the wick protrude out, so we have to ensure that we're getting the best possible entry when we are entering. So let's just extend this out a little bit further so it gives us a little bit more room for the price action to breathe. Now, this is what I'm talking about for a feeler trade. We broke, and what happens often is we can get a small level of consolidation. In this consolidation, the price is still above our key level of horizontal support, but we're not actually broken the zone yet. Now, in this circumstance, I would put a small feeler position in with the stop loss around the high of here or high of here, depending on the risk that I'm going to give myself. But while the price is holding on right here, when it broke the ascending support and it's still above the horizontal support, that's when I'll put a small feeler trade in just to test the waters, and I have my full attention on this trade. Once we see a break of the zone, then I will really look to potentially enter. Also, this is going to be green because it's currently now a support. So what we're looking for is, yes, if it does go horizontally, that's not a problem. Put a little bit of a feeler position in because it has a high likely chance of breaking, but the highest likely chance of us getting a solid entry is when we completely break this zone. Ideally, we would want a little push to the downside, hold this zone, and then if it was an optimal situation, we would get a retest of this zone before making our move to the downside. And then it doesn't exactly matter how we're going to be looking right here, as long as the price stays below this zone right here. So that's the zone that we want to see the price stick below. And then if we do have that option, that's going to be looking really good for our short position. Let's just rearrange these. So that's what I wanted to be seeing. There are going to be sellers around this area, and I'm going to be very patient waiting for the price to retest somewhere along this zone. Now, you want to have a stop loss that's going to be able to handle if it goes even up to this zone here. So ideally, you'd want a stop loss above this area here. Now, yes, it is going to give you a little bit more risk than you maybe want. Lower your position size down, give that price room to breathe, because the risk reward on this trade is pretty phenomenal. So let's just close this out, and let's say that we do get some level of a a pullback to around here. I don't exactly know how it's going to look like, but let's say it's like that. And then we get our huge impulse move to the downside. What are we looking for next? We put a feeler position somewhere around here. What do we need to happen? We need a retest of some sort to validate the new resistance. We got a little push to the downside, breaking this zone. We need a very, very strong push from the bears and the sellers in order to break this key zone. Once that is broken, there will be some level of pullback. If there is an engulfing candle, if there is pin bars, showing that there is strong levels of supply, strong levels of sell pressure, then we are going to look to enter. The moment the price breaks this zone, I don't think is a confirmation that I would take in order to actually trade this setup. Also, this is going to be green because it is still a support. What we need to happen is we need a key clear zone breaking this area around the 1900s, 0.19, and then a retest to maybe around here. We can just extend this zone a little bit further. We don't want to be too greedy. And let's just get it right here. So that's the zone that we're wanting to retest. Once we get that retest, then we can actually put the full position in. That would be the ideal situation that I would like to find for this setup. So let's get our short trade, and then let's say we're entering right somewhere around here. I don't exactly know. The first entry would be around here, right? And then the stop loss would be above right here, and then this would probably be your first trade setup, where you have a very, very high risk reward. You don't have too much on the line because you're only putting in 20, 30, 10, 5, whatever your feeler trade is, that's for you to decide. That's how much you're putting in of your total position that you want to put in for this trade. Once we see a break to the downside, we're going to greatly reduce our stop loss from all the way up here to probably up here. So let's say we break that zone. Now our stop loss is going to be somewhere around here. It is a little bigger, and we want to ensure that we have lots of room for the price if it does want to have a few wicks poke out of this zone. Now because we're in the cryptocurrency market, there is a decent amount of volatility, so we want to ensure that we are going to give the price enough room that it can breathe. We have a very, very significant take profit zone where we have maybe the first take profit at 2 risk reward. So maybe somewhere around here, probably most likely is going to be here and here. So we have this zone right here and this zone right here. Like I said before, it might not hit all the take profits, but definitely you want to have some take profits, maybe right around the 2 range. Let's say we just reduce our risk a little bit more because it made a high, and let's say the pullback did not go nearly as high. We could be reducing our risk with a very solid risk reward. So it does depend on how the upcoming next couple hours is going to play out right around here. But this to me is looking like a pretty solid setup for a great short trade. Just want to say that I don't take profit unless I have a 2 risk reward. It just goes with how I'm trading, with the win-loss ratio that I have. I would really, really like to see a risk reward of at least 2 in order to take really any profits off the table. So it would be somewhere around here. I will keep all the Discord members that have premium up to date with what I'm doing with this trade. I've been really patient, not taking a whole lot of trades, A, because it's the holiday season, and B, I haven't been seeing a tremendous amount of opportunity with the holiday season, with Bitcoin being in a consolidation, with it being a little bit random in my opinion, not perfect to trade. I'm going to take a step back, look at the bigger time frames, look at different pairs, hone in on my trading abilities by using the replay button. There's so many things that you can do outside of just, looking at live charts, trying to make money in order to actually become a consistent, profitable, successful trader. So it is a non-stop 24/7 job. I understand that, but there are many, many ways that you can benefit from different aspects of how to improve yourself as a trader. Backtesting your strategies, all that stuff is very, very vital. So I hope you got something from this. If you are able to short this, let me know. And I know a lot of people are saying, okay, well, if it is in an uptrend and if it has a horizontal zone, it's an ascending triangle. And 100%, it very well could be. It may never break this zone. And if it doesn't, I'm not going to enter. That's not a problem. And if you're looking at a long here and you're just waiting for, the price to break this zone and then retest as a new support, that's 100% fine. I'm very, very alright with that trade being taken. It's just looking at the bigger time frames and understanding that there is a lot of potential resistance that we have all along here. And that's why I'm a little bit more bearish biased, because we have a lot of resistance around here. We see right here, let's just draw the horizontal zone, first level, and then let's just extend that a little bit further down. Support, support, resistance. This is a massive rejection on the weekly, and when we see another rejection right here before finally breaking through, retesting, this is another level of support, and then we see resistance, and then to me, it's just a higher probability of it going down instead of breaking past this really strong zone. And if it were to break past this zone, I wouldn't be looking to enter right away. I want to see those retests. Look at this zone. Let's say you saw the price start to go up above this zone. You want to see it really push above and then retest when it's confirmed that it's above this zone. If you're entering long here, there's no real indication that the price is holding above this zone and the bulls are really strong, other than the parabolic move leading up to that point. But unless you're getting, holding of supports with increasing buy volume, like you see here, there is increasing buy volume. And yes, there is increasing buy volume here, but there is literally no buy volume and there's no support being held whatsoever. This candle right here is a massive rejection. We did try to get the price to pump up above, but it got rejected right back down, closing even lower than the open. That's not something you want to see. So I hope you got something from this. A little bit rambling at the end, but I think that giving some insights and the method of how we trade is definitely beneficial. So I hope you guys liked it. And until next time, happy trading.